welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I sleep trained Peyton when she was only a little over 4 months old. Right off the bat, I just want to say that sleep is so fundamental for babies, and I think that over time we've kind of normalized babies not sleeping, not taking naps during the day. Before Peyton was born, I had so many people say to me, be prepared, you're not going to sleep for the rest of your life. Or I had a lot of trouble sleeping when I was pregnant, and people would be like, oh, she's just preparing you for how little of sleep you're going to get when she's here. And even now people come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, like, are you sleeping at night? And I'm happy to tell them that yes, actually both of us are sleeping very well at night. So right now Peyton is 6 months old, and she is putting herself to sleep for nap time and bedtime, and she's sleeping from about 7:45 to 7:30 in the morning. And then during the day she takes 3 naps, and her first 2 naps are around an hour and a half, and then her last nap of the day is like 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. So the method that we use to sleep train Peyton is pretty controversial, but I just want you guys to know that we tried literally everything under the sun that we could to get her to go to sleep. It wasn't so much her staying asleep and not waking up early in the morning or waking up throughout the night, because most of the time once she was down, she slept throughout the night. But it was just getting her to sleep that we had a lot of trouble with, and eventually I just got to the point where I was like, you know what, we need a Ferberizer. A lot of people hear Ferber method or Ferberize or cry it out, and they think, oh my goodness, I could never do that. I could never just listen to my baby cry until she falls asleep. And that's exactly how I felt. I thought that you just put your baby down and then just let them cry until they eventually cried themselves to sleep, until I started doing a little more research, and I found out that the Ferber method is actually putting them down, saying kind of like a cue word to let them know, okay, now mom's gonna leave and I'm on my own, and then walking out. And then if they cry, you go back in time intervals. So the first night is like 3 minutes, you go in, you calm them down without taking them out of their crib until they're soothed, and then you leave. And then if they continue to cry, then you bump it up to 5 minutes, and then you go in, do the same thing, soothe them, leave, and then I think it's 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes until they fall asleep. That eased my mind a little bit, because I was like, okay, so I still get to let her know that I'm here, I'm there if she needs me, but she needs to learn how to fall asleep by herself, so she wasn't feeling completely alone and like I just left and abandoned her, like I feel like a lot of people feel when they hear the cry it out method or the Ferber method. My number one tip to doing the Ferber method, or really any sleep training method for that matter, is just to dedicate anywhere from a couple of days to an entire week to doing this and really staying consistent and committed. If you start doing this and on the first night you do really well, you follow all the guidelines, and then on the second night they start crying and you go in there and you pick them up and you hold them and you rock them to sleep, you're just going to set yourself back to square one. So you really need to stay committed. I dedicated an entire week to doing this to really just get us on a schedule, not only during the day, but to establish a nighttime routine. I know a lot of people do it on like a long weekend or even just a regular weekend. My next tip is just to understand that the crying only lasts so long, and this fussing and them not really understanding what's going on only lasts a couple of nights. Peyton got the hang of things in about 2 to 3 nights. The first night that I did it, I was so prepared for her to cry all night long. I thought it was going to take hours for her to get to sleep, but it really only took like half an hour. So yeah, be prepared, but just stay strong. And the second that you close that door and your baby starts crying, just understand it only lasts for so long. Okay, the first step before going into this sleep training method is to eliminate any sleep props. And if you need to have a sleep prop, make it one that they can touch rather than like a binky or something that they can put in their mouth and suck. This step may not apply to you if your baby knows how to pick their binky up and put it back in their mouth once it's fallen out. But for me, Peyton was only a little over 4 months old, so she did not know how to do that yet. So I knew that I had to eliminate the binky, because she had become way too reliant on it, and the second that that thing would fall out, even if she was like dead asleep, the minute the binky fell out, she was screaming. And you can understand how frustrating that is when you're the one who has to go in there and pick it up and put it back in her mouth. So what I did was we ditched the binky and we brought in a lovey. And I know some people aren't comfortable with bringing like blankets or anything into the crib. So if you're uncomfortable with doing that, just eliminate all sleep props. Like I said, Peyton was so reliant on the binky. So when we made this switch, I thought for sure there was no way she was gonna go to sleep. Like, no way. But I started this during a nap time and she literally like forgot about the binky. She started sucking on her fingers. Her fingers pretty much replaced the binky. And I always said I never wanted her to be like a finger or a thumb sucker because you can wean them off the binky, but you can't really wean them off their fingers. But it gets the job done, and if it suits her, I'm fine with it. The next thing you need to do is establish a good nighttime routine, and really just an all-day routine. Babies thrive off of routine. If they know what's coming next, they're less likely to freak out when you do that next step because they know that it's coming. So for us, our nighttime routine is if it's bath night, I give her a bath, I bring her in her room and I put on some lullaby music on her sound machine, and then I put on some lotion, I give her a diaper, I give her her vitamin D drop, and then Tylenol if her teeth seem to be bothering her that day. And then I nurse her, and then after I nurse her, I switch the lullaby music to her white noise. And the white noise signals to her, okay, now it's time to go to sleep. So then I put her down in her crib, I put her little sleep sack on, give her her lovey, I kiss her on the forehead, and I say, good night, I love you, I shut the blinds, and I walk out. The first night that I did this, she was kind of thrown off a little bit. She didn't really know what was going on, so she didn't cry right away. I was prepared for the worst. Like I said, I thought I was gonna be doing this for hours, but actually, the first night I put her down at 7:10. And like I said before, the first night you're supposed to go in after 3 minutes, but she wasn't really crying in the beginning for like the first minute or so, and then she started crying because I wasn't rocking her or staying there or rubbing her belly or anything like that. So she started crying. So I actually went in after 6 minutes and I patted her belly, did the same thing, kissed her on the forehead, said goodnight, I love you. And you really want to do this every single time because like I said, you want to get them used to knowing, okay, once mommy says this, that means that I'm on my own. I did that, I soothed her, and then I left. I've seen a lot of time things that say you can only stay in there for like 30 seconds. And I tried to keep it brief, but I didn't time myself or anything like that. So after I left, she continued to cry, but then she kind of started doing this thing where she would cry and then she would stop, and then she would cry and then she would stop. So I let it go longer than 5 minutes, which is the recommended time. So I actually waited 18 minutes. And then I went in again, I patted her belly, I calmed her down, and I left, and she was asleep by 7:40. So that was only 30 minutes that it took her of crying, and then eventually crying and stopping, and then she finally learned, okay, time to go to sleep, and she passed out. So for me, I was like, what is going on? I did not know that it was gonna be that easy, but I kind of understood that maybe it was just beginner's luck and to not get too excited or ahead of myself because tomorrow might be a different story. On night 2, I put her down at 7:06 and you know, we did our bedtime routine. I put her down, kissed her on the forehead, whatever, left. And then at 7:13, which was 5 minutes later, so as the nights go on, your time intervals increase. So the second night you go in after 5 minutes rather than 3. So I went in because she was crying. I calmed her down and I left. And then I kind of noticed that every time I went in there, she was kind of getting more worked up when I left. And I think the reason for that is just that I was kind of teasing her by saying like, okay, I'm right here, but now I'm leaving. So she would kind of get a little worked up. So I decided to just kind of wait and see how things played out. So she stopped crying at 7:29 and then she was asleep by 7:36. So again, it only took her half an hour to fall asleep. And my mind was blown. And that was pretty much, by that time, she kind of got the hang of it. And then night 3 was kind of a little weird because when I put her down at 7:12 and she went right to sleep. Like there was no whimpering, there was not even just like sitting there awake for a little bit. She just went right to sleep. And then she woke up at 7:20, went back to sleep at 7:25, woke up at 7:30, went back to sleep at 7:36, and then she stayed asleep. I don't think that night she really cried. I think it was just kind of like she was rolling around in her crib. She was just trying to put herself to sleep and tire herself out. One thing I do want to mention is I saw somewhere, I don't remember where I saw it, but it's that when babies cry, they exert an energy that they wouldn't be able to release any other way. So they can't exert the energy by playing, they can't exert it by, like exercising, they can't exert it by rolling over or anything like that. The only way that they can get rid of this energy is to cry. So that also kind of put my mind at ease, and I was just like, she's tiring herself out by crying because she wouldn't have been able to tire herself out any other way. So pretty much every night after night 3, she was asleep within 10 to 30 minutes of me putting her down. And I will say that at this time, and even before I started doing this, we were doing a dream feed at around 10:30 every single night. So what a dream feed is, if you don't know, I'll just give you the shortened version. It's basically a feeding that you do 2 to 3 hours after you did their bedtime feeding. And this is normally done when you are getting ready to go to sleep. This was basically just like topping off their tank before you went to sleep so that they wouldn't wake up super early in the morning wanting to eat. And this worked for a really long time. I recently stopped last weekend because it just didn't seem very beneficial to her anymore. She was not really getting a full feeding every single time I did it. She was really only nursing for like 4 to 5 minutes. And it just seemed to kind of be disturbing her sleep more because I was interrupting her. And ever since I stopped, she's been fine. She's been sleeping until the same time every morning. If anything, I think she's sleeping a little better at night because I'm not interrupting her sleep. I highly recommend a dream feed if you're having issues with your baby waking up early in the morning. If you have no problem with that, then go on with your bad self. But I didn't like waking up early in the morning to feed her, so I did a dream feed. Like I said, the Ferber method is super controversial, and a lot of parents get a little nervous when they hear the cry it out method. But if you are struggling with your baby's sleep and nothing seems to be working, I do really recommend doing this. Definitely check with your pediatrician before you do any sleep training method though, just to make sure that they're ready. If your baby's under 4 months, I don't really recommend trying to sleep train them. It's not really worth it. They're not old enough to sleep through the night. But if they're over 4 months, I do highly recommend it. This really worked for Peyton, and it not only helped our relationship, but it also helped mine and my husband's, because he was working all day and coming home. I'd take like 45 minutes to an hour to put Peyton to sleep, and then after 15 to 30 minutes, we'd have to switch off and go in and soothe her, calm her down, put her back to sleep, whatever it may be. And we've really just had no time for ourselves. Now I just put her down at like 7:30, 7:45, and she's out for the night, and we have all the time in the world. If you're having issues with your baby's sleep, just know I hear you, I feel you, I understand you, I'm here for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, because I would be happy to help. All right guys, that is it for today's video. I hope that I helped somebody out there. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments, because I would love to hear what you guys would like to see from me. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss whenever I upload a new video. And until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.